absolutely thrilled to welcome in former Jets coach, former Browns coach, former coach of the year. It is Eric Mangini with us on the Herd. Coach, thank you so much for the time. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Good to see you, Danny.
Good to see you as well. So, the NFL news never really stops. It is a slow time of the year, but things like Brandon Aiyuk putting things on social media register as news. He's talking about, or he's showing clips of Commanders film. How big of a loss would Aiyuk be to Brock Purdy if, in fact, he is done in San Francisco?
It's a really interesting question because anytime you lose or potentially lose a player like Brandon, it's significant. What is it? 75 catches last year, 78 the year before, 7 or 8 touchdowns a year, and the dynamic plays that he makes. But San Francisco's in a unique spot where they've got to figure out who Brock Purdy is. And losing someone like Aiyuk and being able to incorporate their first-round draft pick into the offense this year, I don't think that's a terrible situation to be in from an organizational perspective. There's been so much conversation about what Brock Purdy needs and whether he's a game manager, whether he's actually a franchise quarterback. And this transitions like this or losing someone like Brandon gives the organization a chance to see where Brock truly is. And look, he's not going to be without weapons. He's got plenty of weapons if he loses Aiyuk, but to me, it's a good opportunity for San Francisco to check where they truly are.
I agree with you, and it's actually fascinating. Like if he would have been undrafted, we'd be having the conversation about paying Brock Purdy right now. But they can't pay him because he was the last pick in the draft. But just hypothetically, in that world, instead of the last pick in the draft, if he was undrafted, would you be comfortable with what you've seen from Brock Purdy, giving him Trevor Lawrence or Jared Goff's contract?
That's such a hard question to answer, and we debate this on the show all the time last year, where Brock Purdy was, how much Brock Purdy meant to the success of the offense, and you've got to give him a ton of credit for what he's done and the numbers he's put up, and they're in a lot of ways they're eye popping, and they're eye popping especially considering where he was drafted and how he became the starter, and my biggest question mark was, could he play from behind? Could he win tough games? And he really hadn't until later in the season last year. And I thought throughout the course of the playoffs, he didn't play at the level that he did during the regular season, but he played at a really good level. Now, whether or not he truly is a franchise quarterback, I'm not sure, and I don't think the organization is sure yet. And the amount of money that they're going to have to pay him, they're gonna have to truly believe that it's not a function of the offensive coordinator. It's not a function of the system. It's not a function of all the pieces around him. It's him, and he's a force multiplier.
A quarterback that I don't think there's any debate on that he's a franchise caliber guy, they've already paid him once, is Dak Prescott. I've said that I don't really believe the reporting on this, that how could they just possibly want to prove it year and let him walk at the end of the year? Like, he runner-up for the MVP last year. He's won 12 games, 3 years in a row. He's vast majority of the time healthy. Led the league in touchdown passes last year. Do you think there's still a chance that Dak Prescott signs before the season starts?
Well, I don't really have the same confidence in Dak that you do. And then when you look at Dak throughout the years, he's been the best when they've had a really consistent running game, and he's been part of that process. But every time he's had to throw, 35 to 40 times a game, his record is not very good at all. In fact, it's pretty bad. So when he's had to be the focal point of the offense, it hasn't been what you would expect from a franchise guy. And I don't know if the Cowboys really believe in the way that they were eliminated from the playoffs last season was beyond disappointing. It was really unbelievable when you think about it, all the success that they had and the momentum they had, the winning streak they had at home, and then to lose like they did, just incredibly disappointing. And I think the situation in Dallas is such that they can't really get rid of him because of the dead money. So even though they may not truly believe he's the franchise guy, it's going to be hard to move on from him because I think it's $55 million in dead money if they don't find a way to extend him.
Coach, I gave over-unders earlier in the show, and I know that the producers let you know about them, and I see that you disagree on the Steelers one, which is fascinating to me. I said this is going to be the first year Mike Tomlin has a losing record, but you like the Steelers offseason.
I just loved the what they did at quarterback. To be able to get Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for, I think it's $4.4 million. They got those two quarterbacks for less than Joe Flacco signed for as a backup this season. And to me, that's really good business. And I like the idea of then being able to play both those guys, to have a package for Justin Fields. That's a real package. That's a significant package. To have a package for Russell Wilson, to be able to play both those guys during the course of the game, the amount of problems that creates for defensive coordinators and the amount of time that it takes up from a preparation standpoint is really challenging. It's a really hard thing to do. Both those guys have shown the capacity to win. Obviously, Russell didn't have anywhere near the success that they wanted him to have when they made the trade, but I don't think he's done. I think he can still win games, and then bring in Justin and seeing whether or not his trajectory can still be upward. It's two really good lottery tickets that were cheap, that have skill sets that can create problems for teams week in and week out.
So the old adage of if you have two quarterbacks, you have none, that's expired?
Yeah, look, I get that, but when you've got two quarterbacks that have unique skill sets and you get them both for less than $5 million, it allows you to do a lot of other things with the team that can help you win. And both these guys have shown the ability to win. They've got weaknesses, but I think that you can combine them to put together something that's hard for people to deal with.
So I live and work in Chicago, follow the Bears very closely. Matt Eberflus is the favorite for Coach of the Year. Some people think he'll be the first coach fired. I do not agree with that. The Bears have never fired a coach midseason in the history of their franchise. But you know Matt Eberflus really well. I was skeptical that he would be the best possible coach for Caleb Williams. Do you like the fit?
I do like the fit, and I hired Matt out of Missouri when I was a head coach of the Browns to be our linebacker coach, and incredibly smart, great way with the players, good instincts, really good teammate from a coaching perspective. And I've watched him grow throughout his time in the league, and he's had some challenges, and most new head coaches do. But when he went back to coaching the defense last year, there was a significant bump, and I like the fact that he's going to continue to coach the defense. I think that's a positive. Shane Waldron is someone that I've known for 25, 30 years. He was a young guy at the Patriots when I was a young guy at the Patriots, and I think he'll do a really good job. You saw what he did in Seattle, and with Geno, that nobody expected him to be able to perform like he did. And now you get a player like Caleb with his potential and the wild plays that he brings to the table. I like Eberflus as the leading candidate for Coach of the Year.
What are some of the things that a defensive coach can do to help a quarterback?
Well, it might be a little bit tougher with a younger quarterback, but one of the things that we did in New England, one of the things that I did as a head coach of the Jets and the Browns, is you spend a lot of time teaching about defense. Because oftentimes you go and you're looking at the world from your perspective, from the offensive side of the ball, and that's obviously the starting point. But when you can sit back and really understand how the defenses work, where the problems are, what's consistently challenging, how to get guys to break disguise, how to determine who the weakest link is on the defense, who the biggest tell is on the defense, and to get that information from a defensive perspective, it's a different level of learning, and it's a different understanding of overall football knowledge. And Tom Brady had that in New England, and obviously Bill spent a lot of time with him year in and year out, giving him that defensive perspective.
Caleb Williams said that his favorite quarterback and the guy that he modeled his game after is Aaron Rodgers. And I think Bears fans would take that, given what Aaron Rodgers did to the Bears for about 2 decades, at least on the field. But the off-the-field stuff, there's just so much noise and nonsense. Does it matter because of the calendar, right? It's happening in June and July. Or does what's happening now, does it matter to you if you're the coach of the Jets?
Yeah, it all matters. And I really like Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. And I predicted that the Jets would win the division last year if Aaron had played. And I do believe that he still has the ability to win. What's disappointing about that situation is he was the one that talked about the importance of limiting distraction. He was the one that talked about the importance of focusing on only football and all the things that he preaches in the press conference. And then you get in this situation where he misses the mandatory minicamp. And I get that he was at the voluntary part, and I think that's great. But it's not a secret when mandatory minicamp is. This year was actually a little bit earlier than last year's mandatory minicamp for the Jets. And you understand when vacation is. And if you have a trip that's planned, you can set it up in a way that it doesn't disturb the one thing that you're required to do in the off season. So it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things in terms of him missing those 2 days is going to dramatically change how he performs or the other group performs. No, but it's more indicative of all the noise that's brought into the building that's so unnecessary and distracts from everything else that they're trying to get. And at the end of the day, if he doesn't win this year, he's gone, the coaching staff is gone, and the Jets are starting. Probably the GM's gone, everybody's starting over.
Yeah, they chose a path, and now they are living with their choices and all of the stuff that comes with it. So if they're not the biggest challenger to the Chiefs in the AFC, who is?
You're saying that the Jets are, I would say the Texans are really intriguing in terms of challengers in the AFC to do what they did last year and the performance that CJ had last year, which was really surprising to me. I think it surprised a lot of people. And then in the offseason, they had Danielle Hunter, who, what was he, 16.5 sacks. They had a 1,000-yard rusher. The Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think it's a 1,000-yard receiver, 10+ sack player, and a 1,000-yard rusher has never been added in the offseason for any team in free agency. So you had those pieces to the puzzle. You're a year further ahead in the program. He's not going through his rookie season. They're definitely a challenger. I'm curious to see what the Chargers do, and what kind of effect that the change has there. And that whole division could look dramatically different if the Chargers now are winning the close games that they've historically lost.
So same question then, and yeah, I'm taking notes for bets that I want to place based on your takes. I'm like, oh, he's like the Chargers.
Well, you know, with Jim Harbaugh, it's one of those things where he obviously has won everywhere he's gone. He brings a completely different level of confidence to the building. Justin Herbert hopefully is able to grow and take that next step. We've been waiting for him to be truly great. Maybe this is his year to be great, and figuring out ways to win games that historically you've lost, and Jim should bring that to the table, and that team looks dramatically different at that point.
So then, last question. Then same line of questioning for the NFC. People would say it's the Niners. Who's the biggest challenger in your mind?
Well, my question mark with Detroit was how were they going to deal with success? And they had the success 2 seasons ago, and which was surprising. And it's a big learning curve. Teams have to learn how to deal with expectations. Teams have to learn how to deal with all the things that come along with winning. And then Detroit goes out last year and they win the division for the first time in 30 years. They win a playoff game for the first time in 32 years. They have continuity now with coordinators. There's an authenticity with the head coach that of toughness and hard work and grit. All those things that the players have not only bought into, they've embraced and they've made it their identity. They draft well. And since he's been there, so I like Detroit. They've addressed problems in the secondary. I think Detroit could be the challenger. What they were up on by 17, right, in the game last year before they lost to the 49ers.
Yeah, almost got it done, and certainly one of the best rosters, top to bottom.
And they're young. They're tough. And they've dealt with success. So,
Coach, thank you so much for the time. It was an honor and a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
So much fun. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.